So I want to talk about a few things today. Some of them, I think majority of them are actually from Jewish sources. All right, so starting with this idea that when I was thinking about the eating consciously, what the differences are in recovery is resting and digesting, which is to do with breathing and sleeping, exercise, which has to do with intentions and energy, injuries, which has to do with pain and mystery symptoms, constriction and pressure, self-image, self-concept, self-identity, from having a higher power, not needing to be all-knowing, all-wise, the expert, a lot to do with self-esteem, self-trust, and self-confidence, from keeping my own word to myself and respecting myself for doing what I set out to do rather than being out of control. My hormones with the hair growth changes and isolating because of the weight gain, and the weight gain itself, new clothes, mattress, compression, and stuff. So these are some areas where like actual differences. I want to share from a few different places. So the Chaim says, and this is quoting Bava Basra 9, so Bava Basra 9, it says, all who pursue tzedakah, Hashem will make available to them money with which to do tzedakah. So the Chaim shares, when a sage shares, when a person performs a mitzvah, Hashem creates a situation for him that will allow him to do more. Based upon that concept, when a person gives tzedakah, Hashem provides him with the wealth to give more. So a giver will prosper from his giving. The Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, chapter 4, says, God's great, quotes from the tehillim by King David 1:4-5-3, God is great and his greatness is unsearchable. Inasmuch as it is infinite, the Alter Rebbe says, and therefore he also causes life force and existence, ex nihilo, from nothing, to issue forth for an unlimited number of worlds and creations, for it is the nature of the benevolent to do good. God's benevolence thus dictates that there be an infinite number of worlds and creatures that will benefit from his beneficence. And Shar Yechad Ba'amunah, the Gate of Unity and of Faith, chapter 4 by Rabbi Zalman of Liadi, so this is Alter Rebbe, right? He says, same thing here, he says, as our sages of blessed memory have stated in nedarim 8b, in time to come, basically the Messianic era, the Holy One, blessed be, will take out the sun from its sheath, the wicked will be punished by it. And the Alter Rebbe says they'll be unable to bear the intensity of the sun. The passage goes on to say that the righteous will not be able to tolerate it, will not only be able to tolerate it, they'll be actually healed by it. In the book Living Each Day from Rabbi Dr Avraham Twerski, he says the dubno Maggid has a parable. For the first time, a city dweller saw a farmer planting seeds and thought the farmer must be insane for taking good grain and burying it in the ground. Only much later, after he saw the grain grow, did he understand the reason for burying the seeds in the earth. When we see things happen that appear to be destructive, we lack the foresight that would show us that these are the seeds from which good will later emerge. Amos 9:13. Behold, there will come days, says God, when the one who plows will meet the one who harvests. And in parentheses, we're writing here, the land will be so fruitful, the harvest end will extend to when the plowing is beginning. Katherine Fabrizio talks about internalization. She says, using maternal criticism as an example, when a mother's forever leveling her criticisms against me, even packaging it for my own good, over time it takes a toll. These criticisms and fears become a tape that plays in one's head even when the person is not there, and their internalized voice is carried with us, and we relate to it as if it was a real person's voice, because the representations of important attachment figures are held in the mind, and we relate to them as if it was an actual person. So it can undermine our confidence, make us feel like we can't rely on our own judgment. And I want to talk about chait. So chait is this idea, missing the mark. Some people say it's actually like sinning. So we say Mendel, Kalmenson, and Zalman of Abraham. Why do we have to recover? Because maybe we did the wrong thing. We missed the mark. So Reish Lakish in the Talmud says a person doesn't commit a transgression unless a spirit of madness enters them. Sotah 3a. According to Jewish thought, sin doesn't mean one's soul becomes tainted and corroded. It merely means that one acted in conflict with their essence, which is eternally pure and incorruptible. Many people believe sin leaves an indelible blemish on one's soul, as if a person's actions can affect their essential state of being. Inevitably, this approach to immoral behaviors, consequences, will induce not only guilt feelings for the action, but shame feelings too, which conflate the sinner with their sin. Transgressing blocks the spiritual voice of reason and logic emanating from our godly soul, and harnesses our faculties in pursuit of a deed or experience that does not reflect our true essence and well-being. A foolish investment in an empty, worthless behavior is what we might say is sin, but it doesn't ultimately define us, because the innermost core of our soul is always pure. Just one moment. Just a moment. I'm finishing something that is important. Okay. Yeah, so in derech Chaim 8, it says how the inner soul is, the innermost core of the soul is always pure and holy. It's only a matter of whether we respect and reflect that innate state of being, or whether we devalue and desecrate it. Once someone stops engaging in negativity, their essential goodness can radiate once more. A sin is what someone did, not who they are. Sinful behavior merely covers one's inner divine light. God tells Cain, sin crouches at your door and desires that you let it in, but you can control yourself. The spirit of folly constantly, and that's in Genesis 4:7. The bereishis, the spirit of folly constantly lurks, waiting for us to be off guard, dropped defenses, so it can infiltrate our lives and wreak havoc. The Talmud in Gittin 45a, it says, "It isn't in the mouse to blame, but the hole it came through." We're responsible, according to Judaism, for the choices we make and the influence we allow to enter our psyches, our senses. And there's a few sources here: Tanya, chapter 7, and Yoma 86b, and berachot 34b, and Mishna Torah laws of teshuva. Proactive preventative measures and investments, and efforts to ward off sins before they happen, versus post-sin. Basically the proactive and preventative measures and investments ward off sin before they happen, but after the sin, post-sin, one now has an opportunity to attain a greater spiritual sensitivity and growth than before. In other words, a penitent, according to the sage, is considered to be of even greater spiritual standing than the saint who never sinned. Having experienced intense feelings of distance from God brought by sin, the penitent experiences uniquely intense yearning and thirst for closeness with God, triggered by their prior feelings of separation and disconnection. But the tzaddik can never experience such fervor because he never strayed from the path of God and cannot know the pain and suffering caused by sin and the consequential burning desire for connection, or we could say for correction. Nothing can ever change the spiritual reality that the soul is pure and good. Sin is not an expression of a corrupted nature, nor does it mar one's essence. Sin is what happens when a person is distracted from their soul mission and veers off course. But with effort and support, we can always redirect our energies, realign our priorities, and reclaim our essential goodness. In Yoma 8:9, it says, "One who says I'll sin and then return is not afforded the opportunity to return." So one can. However, we said all this about teshuva, but one cannot deliberately sin. Then we have the idea that absolutely we cannot use the Baal Teshuva advantage as a justification for intentionally sinning, misbehaving on purpose in order to then go further ahead. And our last two sources come from Sanhedrin. So it says in Sanhedrin 4:5, sorry, wait one second. There's a saying, Bishvili Hanivra ha'elam. For my sake, the world is created. So in Sanhedrin 4:5, we say, and therefore I must do the right thing. The Mishna says that witnesses had to say that before testifying in capital cases to discourage falseness and lying. That's from Sanhedrin 12:3. And we'll stop here. We have an interesting topic for our next video. All the best. Bye.